Imagine this. A power-hungry HOA president calls the cops on a new homeowner who dares to defy her ridiculous rules, only to discover that the defiant resident is actually her boss at work. What happens next? She gets fired in the most satisfying way possible. Stick around for this epic tale of petty revenge and sweet justice. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where we dive into the wildest HOA nightmares and Karen meltdowns. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. And if you love seeing entitled people get their comeuppance, give this video a like right now. Let's jump into today's drama. In the quiet suburb of Willow Creek, where manicured lawns stretched like green carpets under the watchful eyes of nosy neighbors, Emily Harper had just moved into her dream home. It was a charming two-story colonial with white shutters and a wraparound porch, the kind of place that promised peace after years of city chaos. But Emily had no idea that her new neighborhood was ruled by an iron-fisted homeowners association, led by none other than Karen Whitaker, a woman whose name struck fear into the hearts of residents. Karen was the epitome of suburban tyranny, enforcing rules with the zeal of a dictator. From the exact shade of beige allowed on garage doors to the prohibition of any yard decorations deemed tacky, her word was law. Emily, a high-powered executive at a prestigious marketing firm downtown, valued her independence above all. She had worked tirelessly to climb the corporate ladder, sacrificing weekends and holidays to build her career. Now at 42, she was the vice president of operations, overseeing a team of over 100 employees. Her new home was meant to be her sanctuary, a place where she could finally unwind without anyone telling her what to do. Little did she know, the HOA covenants she had skimmed over during closing would become the battleground for an unforgettable clash. On her first weekend in the neighborhood, Emily decided to personalize her space. She planted a row of vibrant tulips along her driveway, their red and yellow blooms popping against the neutral palette that dominated the street. She also hung a simple wind chime on her porch, its gentle tinkling a soothing soundtrack to her morning coffee. It wasn't long before the complaints started trickling in. Anonymous notes appeared in her mailbox, citing violations of Section 4.2 of the HOA bylaws, which restricted flower colors to pastels only, and Section 711, which banned any noise-making ornaments. Emily chuckled at first, tossing the notes aside. She had no intention of bowing to such absurdity. After all, she owned her property outright. No mortgage meant no forced compliance in her mind. But Karen Whitaker wasn't one to let infractions slide. At 55, Karen had made the HOA her life's mission after retiring from a mid-level administrative job. She patrolled the streets in her golf cart, binoculars in hand, documenting every perceived slight. Her husband, a meek accountant, rarely challenged her, and her two adult children had long since moved away to escape her overbearing nature. Karen thrived on control, deriving satisfaction from finding neighbors for overgrown hedges or unauthorized bird feeders. When she spotted Emily's tulips and wind chime during her daily rounds, her blood boiled. How dare this newcomer flout the rules that kept Willow Creek pristine? She fired off an official warning letter, demanding immediate removal or face escalating penalties. Emily received the letter on a Tuesday evening after a grueling day at the office. Exhausted but amused, she penned a brief response. "Thank you for your concern, but I choose not to follow these HOA rules. My property, my choices." She mailed it back, thinking that would be the end of it. But for Karen, this was a declaration of war. The next morning, Karen convened an emergency HOA board meeting in her living room, where a handful of compliant neighbors nodded along as she ranted about the erosion of community standards. "If we let one person get away with this, it'll be anarchy," she declared, her voice rising with indignation. By afternoon, she had drafted a cease and desist order and personally delivered it to Emily's door, pounding on it until Emily answered. Though there were no words exchanged in this tale of simmering tension, the air crackled with unspoken fury. Emily accepted the document with a calm demeanor, but inside, she seethed at the intrusion. She had dealt with difficult personalities in boardrooms. This was no different. Over the following days, Karen escalated her campaign. She photographed Emily's yard from every angle, compiling a dossier of evidence to present at the next full HOA meeting. Neighbors whispered about the newcomer who thought she was above the law, some secretly admiring her audacity while others feared the precedent it set. Emily, meanwhile, went about her life. Adding a small garden gnome to her flower bed is a subtle act of defiance. It was painted in bright colors, a cheerful sentinel amid the blooms. Karen spotted it immediately and felt a surge of righteous anger. This was blatant disregard. She decided it was time to involve higher authorities. On a sunny Saturday, as Emily tended to her garden, a police cruiser pulled up to her curb. Two officers stepped out looking somewhat bemused as Karen hovered nearby, arms crossed triumphantly. The cops had been summoned on a complaint of neighborhood disturbance and covenant violations, though they quickly realized it was a civil matter, not criminal. Emily cooperated fully, explaining her stance without rancor, and the officers left after advising her to resolve it through the HOA channels. But the incident left a mark. Emily felt violated, her privacy invaded by this meddlesome woman. She began researching the HOA's structure, discovering that Karen had been president for over a decade, re-elected unopposed each time due to apathy or intimidation. Emily's professional instincts kicked in. She saw patterns of inefficiency and overreach that mirrored toxic workplaces she'd reformed in the past. As the days turned into weeks, the tension mounted. Karen imposed fines that Emily ignored, leading to liens threatened against her property. Emily consulted a lawyer friend, learning that while HOAs had power, they weren't invincible. She attended her first HOA meeting, sitting quietly in the back as Karen presided over discussions of mulch standards and holiday light restrictions. The room was filled with subdued residents, few daring to speak up. Emily observed Karen's domineering style, noting how she dismissed concerns and steamrolled votes. It reminded her of a problematic manager she'd once had to deal with at work. Back home, Emily delved deeper into Karen's background through public records and social media. What she uncovered was intriguing. Karen worked part-time as an administrative assistant at the same marketing firm where Emily held her executive position. In fact, Karen was in the operations department reporting indirectly to Emily through a chain of supervisors. The realization hit like a thunderbolt. This petty tyrant was one of her employees. Emily kept this knowledge close, biding her time as the HOA drama unfolded. Karen, oblivious, continued her harassment, sending daily emails and making unannounced visits to inspect Emily's yard. The tulips flourished, the wind chimes sang, and the gnomes stood guard, each a symbol of resistance. Neighbors began to take sides quietly. Some slipped notes of support under Emily's door, tired of Karen's reign. One evening, as summer faded into fall, Karen orchestrated a neighborhood petition to force Emily's compliance, going door to door with her clipboard. Many signed out of fear, but a growing number refused, emboldened by Emily's stand. The petition fell short, infuriating Karen further. She vowed to make an example of Emily, unaware that the tables were about to turn in ways she couldn't imagine. As leaves began to carpet the lawns, Emily prepared her next move, one that would blend her personal grievance with professional duty. The stage was set for a confrontation that would upend Willow Creek's fragile order. Emily's discovery about Karen's employment at her firm shifted the dynamics subtly yet profoundly. She didn't rush to action. Instead, she observed and gathered information, much like she did in corporate audits. At work, Emily reviewed personnel files discreetly, learning that Karen had a history of complaints from colleagues, micromanaging tasks, creating unnecessary bureaucracy, and fostering a toxic environment in her small team. These issues had been noted but not addressed fully, as Karen's role was low profile. Emily saw parallels between Karen's HOA behavior and her workplace conduct, an abuse of minor authority that stifled others. Meanwhile, in Willow Creek, the HOA feud intensified. Karen, undeterred by the failed petition, hired a landscaping company to assess Emily's yard under the guise of community maintenance. Workers arrived one afternoon, armed with clippers and herbicides, intent on removing the offending tulips and gnome. Emily, working from home that day, intervened just in time, sending them away with firm instructions. The incident sparked murmurs among neighbors, who gathered in small groups to discuss the overreach. Some recalled past grievances, fines for children's chalk drawings on sidewalks, bans on backyard barbecues deemed too smoky. Emily's defiance became a catalyst, encouraging others to question the rules. Karen felt her grip slipping and doubled down, scheduling a special hearing to address Emily's chronic violations. Invitations went out, and the community center buzzed with anticipation on the appointed evening. Emily attended, dressed in her professional attire, a subtle reminder of her outside world. The meeting unfolded with Karen at the podium, presenting slides of Emily's yard as if it were a crime scene. Accusations flew. Disruption of aesthetic, harmony, devaluation of property values, even hints at legal action. Emily sat composed, taking notes. When the floor opened for comments, a few brave souls spoke up in her defense, citing the HOA's outdated and arbitrary rules. Karen shut them down abruptly, but the seed of dissent had been planted. After the BOW meeting, Emily approached Karen privately in the parking lot, but no words were needed to convey the brewing storm. The next day at work, Emily initiated a routine performance review cycle for the operations department. Karen's supervisor, unaware of the personal connection, flagged her file for closer scrutiny based on accumulated feedback. Emily oversaw the process, ensuring it was fair but thorough. Interviews with Karen's coworkers revealed patterns of intimidation and inefficiency, mirroring the HOA complaints. Karen, sensing something amiss at work, grew irritable, her focus divided between job and neighborhood duties. In Willow Creek, she ramped up patrols, issuing citations to anyone showing sympathy for Emily. One neighbor's basketball hoop was deemed non-compliant and removed forcibly, sparking outrage. Emily, meanwhile, rallied quietly, hosting informal gatherings where residents shared stories of HOA woes. No formal organization formed yet, but alliances strengthened. As winter approached, snow blanketed the lawns, temporarily hiding the disputed flowers. But the conflict simmered beneath. Karen, stressed from work pressures, made a critical error. She used company time and resources to print HOA documents, including threats against Emily. This violation came to light during an IT audit Emily had quietly authorized. Evidence mounted: emails, print logs, even witness accounts. Emily compiled a report, presenting it to HR with recommendations for disciplinary action. At home, Emily removed the wind chime temporarily to de-escalate, but left the gnome as a stubborn holdout. Karen interpreted this as weakness and pressed her advantage, demanding full compliance or face eviction proceedings. A bluff, but intimidating nonetheless. Neighbors watched warily as holiday decorations went up, many opting for minimalism to avoid fines. Emily decorated tastefully with lights and non-approved colors, daring another confrontation. Sure enough, Karen arrived with a measuring tape, citing bulb wattage limits. The scene drew onlookers, phones discreetly recording. Tensions peaked when Karen called the authorities again, this time claiming trespassing after Emily asked her to leave the property. Police arrived, bemused once more, and departed after clarifying boundaries. This second call solidified Emily's resolve. Back at the firm, the review concluded with a meeting for Karen. She entered the conference room expecting routine feedback, only to face Emily across the table as the overseeing executive. The realization dawned slowly, horror etching her features as connections clicked. Emily presented the findings professionally: misuse of company assets, poor team dynamics, and now, a pattern of harassment linking work and personal life. Karen's defenses crumbled under the weight of evidence. Termination followed swiftly, handled with paperwork and severance to avoid lawsuits. In Willow Creek, news spread like wildfire. Karen's sudden retirement from her job coincided with her withdrawal from HOA activities. She stopped patrols, ignored meetings, and kept to herself. Residents breathed easier, and at the next election a new board was voted in, with Emily declining nomination but offering advisory input. Rules were revised for fairness, tulips bloomed freely, and wind chimes tinkled without reproach. The gnome remained, a symbol of reclaimed freedom. But whispers lingered. Had Emily orchestrated it all? She never confirmed, letting the mystery add to her quiet authority. As spring returned, Willow Creek transformed, no longer oppressed, but vibrant with individuality. With Karen ousted from both her job and HOA throne, Emily settled into a peaceful routine, her home now a true haven. The neighborhood flourished under new leadership, with relaxed rules allowing personal expression. Gardens burst with color, Children played without fear of fines, and community events replaced contentious meetings. Emily advanced at work, her decisive handling of the situation earning respect from superiors. Karen, humiliated, sold her house quietly and moved to a condo complex with no HOA, vowing never to meddle again. Years later, stories of the epic takedown circulated at block parties, a cautionary tale of overreach and comeuppance. Emily's gnome, weathered but standing, became a local legend, reminding all that true power lies in standing firm against petty tyrants. If you loved this HOA revenge story, hit that like button, subscribe for more epic tales, and drop a comment below with your own neighborhood drama. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.